question to ask you: is ignorance really bliss? Welcome back, David Solomon here. I'm flying a solo, as I said. I'm here at the Rant Network, where we always dive into these raw, unfiltered issues spanning news, pop culture, politics, and so much more. Normally, we dive into, all these kinds of absurdities that we see today in society, from the ridiculous to the really concerning. So here, it's all about being honest, frank, and open. It's unedited, folks. We don't edit our rants ever. What you see is what you get. So sit back and take in today's rant. Here we go. All right, so I started by saying ignorance is bliss. Could it be? Well, it's a fascinating thing to believe how ignorant people are. And they're just kind of throwing their hands up in the air saying, I didn't know. Being part of a, sheep, going with the crowd, that's been around since forever. Humans don't want to be left out. We have FOMO. That's right. In general, we have a fear of missing out. And if there's a group and there's a larger group and we're not part of it, we'll find a way to be part of it, even if it doesn't make any bloody sense. I mean, one of the famous stories of, of Galileo, who said, hey, listen, the sun is the center of the universe and not the earth. And everybody from the church to the politicians to the people said, no, you're wrong. And it's heresy. Well, today's heresy, ladies and gentlemen, is what's going on in the Middle East since October 7th. Right? Since October 7th. I know you're probably sitting there going again. Here we go again. Why is Solomon back again on the Middle East issue? Israel and Hamas. Aren't we fed up of listening to it? Israel's guilty. Come on. We heard today the International Court of Justice decided not to throw out the court case. The 17 judges decided that they're going to hear out the entire case, which could take years, by the way. But this preliminary attempt by Israel to have it thrown out, that there is no substance, no base, no nothing, already the people who are anti-Israel are already saying, you see, we were right. And the ignorant are going to go, Israel's committing genocide. Amazing, right? This is incredible. But I'm tired of it. And I'll give you a bunch of examples why ignorance is not bliss in this case. In fact, ignorance is dangerous. Since October the 7th, the media had actually, starting October the 7th, more precisely, the media had actually covered this story somewhat properly. That's right, somewhat. They did say there was an invasion by Hamas terrorists into Israel. They called them militants, a word I'm sick and tired of hearing, because people who kill women, children, rape them, burn them, those are not militants. Militants, I don't get that word. They're terrorists. But hey, ignorance is bliss. I guess on my part in that one. So here we are, since October the 7th, and Hamas and their terrorists post online. That's right. They posted online. They boasted. They had GoPros. They used their cell phones to capture the beautiful imagery of how they absolutely destroyed the lives of hundreds and thousands of people in Israel. Proudly, excitedly. We have footage from Israeli security cameras. And yet, when you go onto college campuses, you have the deniers. And you could say the deniers are stupid, but it's not that. They've been taught that anything that Israel says is a lie. It's propaganda. That's what their professors taught them. That's what they heard in the media. That's what they got through social media. Their ignorance, someone would say, is a bias. It's a hate. But believe it or not, some of them actually, it's not about hate. They've simply been brainwashed. They are ignorant to the facts and don't bother checking and looking into these facts. If the professor says it, if my social media feed says it, if the news media says it, it must be correct. Even when it started, the ignorant had to find a way to twist it. Now, you say if they're ignorant, they're not that smart. No, these are people who don't understand the politics. So when the first protest started in early on October the 8th and 9th, anticipating Israel's response, they already started with chants that Israel's a genocidal state, we kill babies, Israel kills babies, and that Israel's an apartheid state. And Israel, the blame game started. Israel hadn't fired a bullet yet. But in anticipation of what Israel was going to retaliate, they started their ignorance campaign. They wanted to enhance the ignorance campaign. You would call it a propaganda campaign, but it is simply telling people that Israel is in the wrong. And how do we know this? So let's fast forward. We're in January of 2024. This is when we've broadcast this episode. So if you've watched this months later and this is still happening, God help us, but just put into perspective. You hear chants from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. It's a death chant. That's a death chant. That's the chartered statement by Hamas, the annihilation of Jews. And the people around the world who are protesting, wanting this so-called, two-state solution, which I'll get to in a second, or a ceasefire, which I'll get to in a second, the statement that you hear again and again, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea, from the river to the sea. Noah Tishby, a phenomenal Israeli activist, American-Israeli. She's been talking since October the 7th, social media, events, interviews, you name it. She went to one of those wonderful protests and asked the people there, not of Muslim descent, not visibly Middle Eastern, just standard everyday Americans, let's call it, right? The classic. You would call it stereotypical maybe, but call it classic. And ask which river, which sea. And the answer was, I don't know what river, but maybe it was the Red Sea, or maybe it was the Black Sea. Neither would have made sense had the ignorant done their homework. But the sheep had to follow the herd. And in this case, they're going to the slaughter because all they were chanting in their minds was a slogan that had so much impact, but had no idea what it really means and where it really is. That's the ignorance that we've created. This lack of understanding. Same thing with a ceasefire. What does a ceasefire mean? Oh, we're going to stop killing innocent people. Listen, war is hell. There's no doubt. You've heard this in movies. You've heard this from everyone. Unfortunately, war is hell. And the government, if we call them that, in Gaza, attacks, that's war. And unfortunately, there are casualties. You're worrying about the Palestinian casualties. What about the Israeli casualties? The ones that are physically, psychologically maimed for life. But the ignorant don't want to know from that. Turning a blind eye. Because the sheep are saying, Palestine. Only Palestinians matter. When asked, why aren't you protesting when Palestinians were killed in Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, other areas? No, 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 no. That's not relevant. So is ignorance, in this case, anti-Semitism? The two-state solution idea that's floated around again and again. This ignorant remark is being floated by politicians. It's the way we're going to get a ceasefire. We're going to bring peace to the Middle East. For God's sakes, how many decades can we throw the same jargon, the same crap? It didn't work in 6 decades. And all of a sudden, it's going to work today. Now we're going to have this two-state solution. Go back, Mr. Politician. Go back, Ms. Politician. Go back, whomever you are, to the charter, to Hamas's charter, to Fatah's charter. Those are the people who run West Bank. They are not interested in peace. It's from the river to the sea. People don't want to see the truth here, that children are being brainwashed from early on. Israel's presented time and time again how the education, the books, the TV shows, the kids' TV shows, you name it, they've shown the broadcasts, and yet don't want to know from it. I want to remain ignorant to the truth. When you see that Israel presented that under hospitals, the tunnels, the armament in children's bedrooms, nope, I'm going to turn a blind eye. I want to remain ignorant. I want to continue to follow the sheep. And the sheep keep saying, Palestine. I'm not here to say that the Palestinians do not deserve a state. The Palestinians deserve a homeland, deserve a place to live, work in peace. Great, if they want it. But when you start chanting death chants and you brainwash your children, and you tell the kids when you grow up you're going to be a shaheed. Basically, you're going to be a killer. I mean, this is what you are ignorant of. And the reason you're ignorant, and it's mind-boggling, ladies and gentlemen, is in 2024, when the information there is in front of you, clear as day, you choose to ignore it. Because the sheep are telling you that they're right, and that's wrong. There are plenty of wolves in sheep's clothing in this cause, and yet want to stay ignorant. So I asked you at the beginning, is ignorance bliss? And the answer in this case, no. Ignorance is not only not bliss, it's dangerous. It's harmful. We've seen the damage. We've seen what it's done to people. And I'm not talking about the threats of withdrawing money from universities or whatever, but we've seen how ignorance has ruined the university system. They call it wokeism. They call it, whatever you want to call it. It's goddamn ignorance. You're in a university. Universities are a place where you could research and validate. And that was what they used to teach you. And now we don't bother. We rely upon social media feeds knowing damn well that there are, what you want to hear, you'll find. But do your homework. There are missions to Israel today showing where the attacks occurred. It's vile. It's gross. It still smells. It's not Hollywood. It's not a museum. It's a reality. And for the people who out there who still believe that we should free Palestine, yes, we should free Palestine from Hamas to give them what they deserve. Instead, the ignorant who are vocal, they're not the majority. There are polls out there, thankfully, are stating that 3/4 of Canadians, 3/4 of Americans still support Israel, still support the cause, and are against anti-Semitism and are against what's going on, the treatment of Jews around the world. But the younger you go, that ignorance continues to float to the top. The numbers flip. They have no problem with racism. They have no problem with the hate. They have no problem chanting death chants to Jews, ignorantly believing that this is the right way to go, that this is the right way to go, that the movements that they're part of, this is the right way to go. My last statement, which blows my mind about ignorance, is calling me a white supremacist. 40% of global Jewry is white. Israel has a multicultural state that's unbelievable. And yet, calling me ignorantly a white supremacist, you know what? Ignorance is no longer bliss. You're guilty. You're guilty of being ignorant. With that, I leave you. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. That's it for the Rant Network for today and this week. Hope you found something out of this. Catch us every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. That's when we broadcast. Engage us on social media. Like us on YouTube. Share your perspectives. Go to our YouTube channel. Genuinely, we appreciate your feedback. So until next time,